Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. We're talking about a lot of things today. Episode 425 of the Council on Future Conflict. My name is Scott. I'm the proprietor of the Future Conflict channel today, where we're talking about Biden's Middle Eastern, North Africa policy, and essentially the Middle East war that has led to, and the disaster prep and recovery. Specifically, we're going to be using examples in and around the hurricane. A lot of good people out there still in recovery and, let's be honest, survival mode. A lot of people with no power, and a lot of great lessons that we're learning about what you need to be ready to do to be able to respond when you're in a disaster that, basically puts you back on your heels. So we'll be kind of getting deeper into that with Joe later. But what do you talk? Why? What are you doing? What do you want?
Well, I was confused, man, because I saw this thumbnail and I thought we were going to be talking about Shai Hulud, the great worm.
Well, yeah. I mean, the sandworms are evidently they're falling from the sky. And it's is it a small sandworm or is it a giant Coke can?
Also, I do have to say, we tortured chat with it yesterday because we couldn't let them see it because of YouTube's policies. But was I right? Did the Looney Tunes sound, in fact, enhance that clip?
Oh, that
It did.
That was,
It certainly did.
really funny. That was really funny. Yeah. I hate to say it, poor guy. I mean, it's just random dude in the Middle East just getting a rocket dropped on top of his head.
I would challenge that there are no random dudes in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Well, but random by that meaning that it just could be any guy, right?
Yeah, right.
Just a dude walking down the street.
While I get you and I fully understand where you're coming from, I do have to say, if there were ever more of a case of, nope, God says fuck that guy right there, I'm not aware of it, because that.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're seeing some interesting stuff come out of let's be honest, both of these situations. Israel's continuing to pound southern Lebanon, and all that entails. There's the ground invasion is still going on there. We've got the stuff that's going on both, and here's the thing, Joe, is it's bad enough when you have a disaster like this. It's bad enough, right? And just the disaster itself, without any kind of complicating factors, is bad enough, right? But when you throw in all this political nonsense that we're seeing come out of this, it's just like, it's just piling on. It's making a bad situation worse.
Yes, I think you're right.
Well, I mean,
I think that mismanagement is making it worse, but you have to ask yourself, is it incompetence or malice? And it's kind of hard to tell the difference at this point. But when they tell you, hey, I spent all my money on illegal aliens, so instead of the $2,500 they got, here's $750 to help you run a U-Haul and get out of here so I can sell your land to BlackRock, does kind of lean one way versus another. So
right. Yeah.
Watcher, the chat is asking you to post a link to the Looney Tunes version of that video in the chat.
To post the link. Do you have it still, Watcher? Real quick.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I'm looking for it. It's here in my mentions somewhere.
Hey, Watcher, I just realized our first odds and ends is really a segment one story.
Okay. Let me move some stuff around.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You just bear with me. I'll make a couple changes on the show notes real quick.
While he's at that, I want to point out that Watcher and I sat around a campfire. Me, Watcher, and Don actually. with a South African, and we said, "Hey," I said, "Hey, you know what? You're from KwaZulu Natal, right?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "By the way, on our show, we use a clip from the KwaZulu Natal riots."
Yeah.
And we show him the clip. He goes, "That's from the town I live in, Peter Maritzburg." And we're like, "Well, that's funny because well," and kind of led to a whole fun chat about our show beginning and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was
Yeah.
a
he
cool memory. Cool
he
memory.
thinks he might know a Reaper.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, when did that all go down? That was 2021, right?
2021, yeah, July of
Yeah,
2021.
that would have been right before we really got started with this show, if I remember correctly. Because that was stuff we were talking about on Twitter. That was about the time our kind of little circle of buddies was kind of coalescing on Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd started the CFC part of the show yet. I might have been doing the writers fix problem stuff at that point, but not the.
Yeah. Watcher Joshua Clark was reminding you that it's in the replies to the show on X from the other day.
Ah, perfect.
And yes, there is for the chat. Yes, there is a commie governor in North Carolina, but Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson is out there doing the heavy lifting right now. He's stationed himself out of one of the sheriff's offices in the affected area and has been organizing all kinds of stuff. So when it comes time to vote, Mark Robinson is the man. So,
all right.
Hey, Watcher, if you could do me a favor and throw up the stand down thing right quick.
Yeah.
So, for anyone in the Pacific Northwest, this Saturday and Sunday, we're holding the Northwest Montana Veterans Stand Down. Vets, I know I talk about a lot, but you never know who's going to see this show. But there's going to be, they're going to be giving out surplus military clothing, some civilian clothing. There'll be doctors from both the Spokane and the Montana VA systems there to talk to people. There will be all kinds of people there to talk about health, mental health, things like that. Free haircuts and free gear to get guys through the winter. First aid kits, things like that, handed out free of charge to veterans. All you need is your DD 214 or your VA card to get in there, or military ID if you're still in and working on getting out. We'll be at the Libby Memorial Events Center in Libby, Montana. Saturday from 9 to 3 and Sunday from 10 to 1, or whenever we run out of stuff. If you're in the Kalispell area and you can't get there, well, we're running buses from Kalispell out there on Saturday. So if you can get to the Northwest Montana Veterans Food Pantry out there on US 2, we will get you there. So I'd like you guys to find my tweet like this and share it out and maybe pass the word. Going to be good stuff.
Yeah, very good. This is just an extension of that whole idea that folks should be out there trying to connect with like-minded individuals. And so, I mean, whether it's something like this or, could be a lot of different other types of things. These are great opportunities to meet people, like-minded people who, maybe have a similar background, especially if you're a vet or something like that.
I tell you what, I'm having dinner too with a couple of the fans from the show that you both met at here at the camp this summer. So,
yeah, and I'll tell you one better. I may or may not be in possession of some footage of a certain somebody doing cartwheels.
Oh, I have that footage too.
That's behind the paywall over on.
No, I think that'll get edited right into the new intro. That's what I'm thinking.
No, my original plan was to just have us be talking and watch her just play it at some point.
Just play it.
I mean, that's a good way to get me to pull the live stream midstream, right?
I don't know. I think you did a fine job given your condition at the time.
Great heart.
It was
after the too, but see, Joe, that's why you have to come to the live events, right? That's why you have to.
Facts.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's funny is that Brandon hadn't intended to stay with us that long, right? He said he'd be like 10, 15 minutes and out, and he hung out for the whole first hour. So he had a great time too. So
yeah, I thought that was great. He was awesome, and it was good to get to know him, and so. All right. So Watcher, just to kind of give you a heads up, I have added and done a little adds, change, and deletes down in the
Okay,
show notes. So
give me just a
sorry.
second. I have to archive the first one apparently.
I need to acknowledge Hunch in the chat. I see that Hunch is in here, so I'm going to say it now. Hunch, while he was here over the week or 2 weeks that he was here, whichever it was, he went through this library that I'm sitting in and pulled out all the books that he thought that I would want to read, because this library has a collection of really old books, and he pulled out a bunch of them, including this old school outdoorsman's handbook. And as I'm writing book 6, that stack of books that you pulled aside, Hunch, have been invaluable in helping me come up with ideas for it. So nice work. Nice work.
All right. So let's.
Sorry. You should.
I also may have said footage. All right. So real quick, let me. We got a couple super chats. Let's go get through these. Lance Corporal Veteran for $2 says, "Water, post the link." I think
he means Watcher.
Yeah, why? That's kind of what I thought.
I'm trying to find it still. Whoa, there it is.
UCO Steve number 2 for $2 says, "Get off your asses and go vote early. Thank you." The interesting thing is, it seems like early voting has actually been a thing this year for Republicans. In the past, it was always the libs went out and voted early, and the Republicans all voted on the day. But it looks like a lot of people are getting out there and voting early, so that's encouraging to see. Peter Shays Helicopter Tours for $5 says, "Respectfully, I am under no obligation to give deference to a claim of incompetence when it comes to the federal government. That's just lazy." Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a generally I think it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. There are people out there that don't like the people that are in those areas and have no they see it to their benefit to drag their feet when it goes to helping them. But there are others, and trust me, having got to know the federal bureaucracy over the last 25 years or so, there are a lot of incompetence in there.
Yeah, but at this point during Katrina, we had Ray Nagel on TV saying George Bush hates black people. Where's the person coming on saying Joe Biden hates white people?
Hates rednecks, right?
By the way, the comments are glorious. Joshua Clark, I didn't think they have that many books on spooning with Sibley. Funny. And Mr. Nancy Comedy, Tactical Crayons and their application. Very nice. Very nice.
All right.
I just got to say, while we're waiting for this to load, that odd images keep surfacing. There's no accounting for some of these. I don't quite get it.
He's buddies with all the school shooters there.
Dude, that was the weirdest comment ever to make.
I'm sure he meant to say school shooting victims, but that's not what he said. Oh, Dolio and Watcher.
You may,
I want my campaign shirt.
You may judge a man by the quality of his associates, right? So, wait, that's a terrible idea. Have you seen my associates?
Diversity hires and people, could be onto something there. All right. So we are all here so Natalie, on the second floor, water was for the first level. I saw your post on Friday about your generator and then dropped the phone. Oh no. I hope you guys keep dry.
Hey,
so I'm still waiting for this archive page to load. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I could barely hear you, Watcher. But anyway, so we're running a class here on this coming, or not this weekend, but next weekend, the 12th and 13th, taught by Kay from Combat Studies Group, former CIA Special Activities Division and various other places. I'm laughing at Alpha Charlie in my head while I do this, but it's all on internet privacy and cell phones. And he is currently building me a secure cell phone. Matt and I both will have them now. If there was ever a time to switch from a standard Google or iPhone thing to something running Calyx or Graphene, now is the time. And now is also the time to migrate away from Signal towards Simplex. You have to keep changing your secure messaging apps because the longer one has been out, the less secure it becomes. So it might be time to tighten up your comms.
Yeah,
yes, I'm sad to say Alpha Charlie Concepts is one of my associates. Right down to us both wearing woodland camis in the forests of southern Georgia. Yes.
Nice.
Now,
real quick before we go on,
hold on though. Something else happened in the chat. There's better photos of me and Be Prepared because we're both in Rhodesian brushstroke. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That's worth knowing.
I just wanted to say we talked about those mules the other day, and I finally got an image of them operating, or short video. It's pretty serious stuff, man. That's a class I kind of want to go take now.
I'll tell you, John Mosby runs a class like that, and what's funny is he had canceled one that was supposed to run this weekend because there was not enough interest. I bet there is now in running pack animals. So,
yeah, I just can't imagine ever having a need. Like personally, I'm sure it's good to have the capability in my organization, but I don't know that I would be the guy who would need that.
It's funny. I totally can. Not to derail us, but I have seen a bunch of places where people have built cabins where you go, how the hell would they get anything up there? There's no road. There's no anything. Stuff like that's the answer.
All right. There's just other classes I'd take before I'd take that one. So I thought this was an interesting sign of the times. And also I want to kind of talk a little about the regulatory state because Elon is having his troubles with the federal government and oddly political enforcement of fairly benign regulations. Elon Musk to attempt Trump rally at site of attempted assassination. First of all, I think this rally at Butler, right? Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah, it's not just in Butler. The stage is in the exact same place.
Yeah, it's basically a redo.
Yeah.
I think this is great. I think this will be, and it'll end up being a huge, kind of publicity win for the Trump campaign. But just knowing that like a guy like Elon's going to be there, right? And the funny thing is the evolution of Elon Musk's politics, right? And so I probably overlap with him maybe at the 70% of his public kind of level. So, Jay Clark, benign. But the interesting thing is he is the one that's become more overtly supportive of Donald Trump, right? He was not overtly supportive of Donald Trump in previous elections. But he has seen, just like we've all seen, how the regulatory state absolutely wants to throttle you and your ambitions and put your family in the poorhouse. And so I just think this has been an interesting evolution of his public positions. So let's read a little bit about this. Elon Musk said on October 3rd, he will attend the former President Donald Trump's upcoming rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. I will be there to support, he wrote on X. Trump has a rally scheduled for Saturday at the Butler Farm Show where he was struck by a bullet during an event in July. Authorities say Thomas Crooks, who was shot dead by Secret Service, attempted to assassinate. We already know about that. let's see. Musk has since endorsed the president. He said, "I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery." He wrote that at the time of the incident. The martyr lived. The last time America had a candidate this tough was Teddy Roosevelt, who was a progressive, by the way. The business mogul who was also the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX said in another post that Trump backing Trump has become essential to saving America. I mean, these are pretty solid comments coming from a guy who politically, I mean, we all kind of liked some of the space stuff that he was doing, but we were not on the same page on the last election. So it's interesting to see the evolution of people who were not supporters of Trump in 2020.
I'm gonna point out that Teddy Roosevelt technically was tougher because he got shot in the chest and he gave the speech and said, "You have to forgive me. You might not be able to hear this because I believe I have just been shot." Right. And went on and gave the speech. But yeah, that's a good thing. You can also tell the quality of a man by the quality of his enemies. And they're literally trying and pulling out all the stops to kill the man. There you are. But I wanted to mention, I think we'd be remiss if we let this gloss over, but yesterday, the prosecution of the current assassin requested an indefinite delay because of a mountain of new evidence they needed to go over. Well, if you've just gotten a mountain of new evidence and it was all to your benefit, you wouldn't delay. Now, you would delay if that evidence pointed directly to the fact that this guy's been on a payroll of certain government agencies for quite a while. You might want a little bit of time, at least till after the election, or until you can get him to hang himself in his cell and it no longer be relevant. So I really think that that's important to note. There's no legitimate reason for them to go over all this extra evidence, right? He was caught in the act. You don't need any evidence other than him being seen fleeing the scene in the stolen vehicle and him driving the stolen vehicle. All the other evidence is stuff they don't want to come out during discovery. So they're going to be issuing challenges on national security grounds. Mark my words, that's what's going to happen on a lot of that evidence being released.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is a absolute, so right here, this is kind of the one I was waiting for this to pop up. Somehow they have 4,000 terabytes of evidence. Now, I'm sure a lot of this is video evidence, which is typically larger files and things like that. But that is still a massive amount of data that they're going to have to comb through. And I think you're right, Joe. I think if they could kind of skim through it to find out if there's anything absolutely, blockbuster in there. But if not, then it's just kind of combing through it. And if it was all good for them, I don't think they would slow anything up. They would just, dump it on the defense and say, enjoy going through 4,000 terabytes of data. And none of it will help you. So.
It's amazing how a guy with his history was able to just float across borders with no issues. Countries check for criminal history and things like that, so it's just interesting to me.
So getting back to this Trump and Musk kind of linkage, right? Trump welcomed Musk's endorsement at the time and said in a September speech that if elected, he would, on Musk's advice, create a Government Efficiency Commission tasked with improving government operations. Now, watch, this is something I know that you've kind of talked about in the past. And I remember you were pretty supportive of this at the time.
Still am. Still think that it is rather like talking about sunlight while you're in the vampire's crypt. It is the most, if they fear anything the most out of a second Donald Trump presidency, it is this.
Yeah, and the irony is that Elon Musk, I think at one point said that, yes, I would serve on the commission to help.
Which is a great offer, but let's be honest, the man has no time.
Yeah, he's got plenty of more important things to do.
You tell me when the last time he spent a week sleeping on the floor of his own factory was, because I'm pretty sure that was like a month ago.
Well, the irony is that he kind of tends to be like a fire brigade for all his things. He's got very good people working for him, but he kind of goes where the need is greatest, I
Where the
think.
fire is, yeah.
Um,
If more need be said about it, no commission has ever stopped to look at whether government is acting efficiently. Uh, Fun fact, it's not anywhere.
One of the
So
things that will be interesting at this Butler rally is to see if the media kind of goes out of their way to kind of say, now there are a lot more snipers now, set up here at Butler than there were last time.
I bet you there's people on that dangerous sloped roof.
Roof, right? Exactly right. A Secret Service spokesperson told Epoch Times in an email that the agency has since since the attempted assassination made comprehensive changes and enhancements to our communications capabilities, resourcing, and protective operations. Trump, he said, is receiving heightened protection. The agency said previously that Trump is receiving the same level of protection as President Joe Biden and Harris in the wake of the assassination attempt. And another apparent attempt by a man on a golf course in Florida. They're also coordinating closely with the Pennsylvania State Police as well as local law enforcement in and around Butler Townships. That they are leveraging other federal security resources to expand personnel and technology. Let's see. Of course, they're not going to get into any details, but it sounds like they are aware that they need to up their game a little bit. Just kind of talking a little more broadly about some of Elon Musk's problems here lately. The irony is the cool stuff he does, right, is all the rocket stuff, I think. And Elon's also shown the ability to bring a lot of capabilities to areas such as the Starlinks to Ukraine, and then here most recently all the free Starlink coverage within the Appalachian region that was been affected by the recent hurricane. So it's kind of crazy, so we were talking, I think, a little bit the other day about the rural internet program that's been like over, what is it, $45 billion or something like that. And yet no internet has been delivered with any of that money to any of these areas where Elon can get Starlink going for free, essentially, to free to customers, in 48 hours, in the areas. It's just a matter of getting the hardware to them. So it just goes to show the absolute tyranny of these, benign regulations, if you will. It goes very much to the people who are enforcing them, the bureaucrats, as much as anything else. Kevin Dorr for $5. Lee Smith has a story on Iranian arrest plot on Trump. Seems like this is a Whitmer-like setup only with Iranians. Okay. Watcher, any other thoughts on the regulations? I mean, I know like you've been dealing with a lot of stupid regulations with and things like this. I mean,
sure,
essentially, it must have got the same type of regulations for rockets.
No, well, I mean, there's so much more to it than that.
I know.
Just an easy one that we're talking about here. Musk had a contract to provide disaster relief internet that the FCC pulled at the last moment, despite there being no reason for doing so. It's not just like he's bumping up against regulations. The regulatory authority has made it very obvious that they're going to punish him for acting against what they have deemed as their interests. So, yeah, it's very interesting to watch. I personally hope we win and that those agencies get hollowed out. But here's hoping, right?
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see. Derna for $5 says a private contractor is still more efficient than a government worker, even when it's a union job. Let that sink in. Yeah, I mean, I think that anytime there's a profit motive to complete a mission, I think that ups the ante for both the workers and the people who are leading those missions. I mean, specifically in areas where you're not trying to break things and hurt people's feelings with, violence and speed of action. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, unions efficiency guffaw.
Well, it's the only thing that makes union efficiency still a standard is that the government efficiency is so much worse, right? So at least you have somebody you're better than. But guys, speaking of unions, the next story is interesting because it kind of shows I guess the Harris campaign is not making the impression on the working man that anybody expected. Second major
Wait,
union
hold on.
trumps Harris as
you're-
International Association of Firefighters votes no endorsement. Go ahead.
You're telling me that her entirely phony, completely made up thing about being a McDonald's worker didn't ring it big with the blue collar guys? That's really weird. I don't know how that worked out.
Well, I mean, it's Go ahead. Well, Joe, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to agree.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at her, you would never imagine McDonald's worker. You know why? Because it didn't happen.
Because it never fucking happened.
Pretty simple.
It says here, okay, so the story here says 2 weeks ago, the Teamsters union, oh my God, the Teamsters are not backing her, announced that they would not endorse a presidential candidate this year for the first time since 1996. Internal polling revealed that 58% of its members backed Trump versus 31% for Harris. Yeah, I mean, when your members are that strong behind the other guy, you're probably pretty smart to not rock the boat with your members. And then today, the International Association of Firefighters was the first major union to endorse Joe Biden, which was the first major union to endorse Joe Biden in 2020, became the second major union to abstain from endorsing a candidate after taking unprecedented steps to hear out members' views on the candidates and the policy issues that matter. So shocking. The members don't want it. So maybe it's not smart for us to endorse anybody.
Huh.
Weird.
Funny how that works, right? The IAFF represents over 300,000 career firefighters and emergency responders. Imagine firefighters and first responders being pro-Trump. I can't imagine that. Well, but I'll be honest with you. Trump is one of the first politicians I've seen in a long time. Not that I've never seen it before, but in a long time, who will go out of his way to go and shake the hands of cops and like just local cops and firefighters and emergency service workers. He actually he seems to appreciate them. I mean, I know the art of politicians is to make everybody think that they care when in fact they don't care. But he seems as genuine as any other politician I've ever seen, and he's the only one I've ever seen in recent memory that has gone out of his way to shake police hands and things like that.
True. So not necessarily about this specifically, but they bring it up in the article about the debate. They really screwed the pooch on that, eh? So I don't know if anybody caught it, but here's why they're panicking so much, in my opinion. They had done this whole, hey, we're going to be internally narratively consistent about that they're weird, that J.D. Vance is weird, and that he's not just weird, but evil and weird, and a weird evil demon, and we're going to come after him. And then Vance laid a trap for him, which was he was the most cordial, likable guy you could possibly imagine. And Waltz's options on stage were to act like the asshole and treat this very cordial, normal-looking guy as a weirdo and an evil weirdo, or do what he ended up doing, which was treat him like a normal person. But that breaks the spell. They have to have everybody, particularly when they're up on a big stage,
Mm-hmm.
acting internally consistently with their own narrative. And
Yeah.
since he didn't, the entire the likability factor has gone off the charts.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's see. What is this? Kamala headquarters. JD Vance calls audience haters as he is booed at firefighters union conference. I mean, shocking that the union that support Democratic, packs the audience with people who would not be supportive of him. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, this is just kind of a broader trend that we're seeing where Trump is absolutely dominating in, especially non-college educated male jobs, right? Which tend to be trades. The tradesmen, these guys are, in larger percentage than other populations, union members, and like it said here with the Teamsters, right? 58% of its members back Trump. I mean, what do they don't have any kind of way to really go against that rank and file.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. When you look at like the union that was just on strike, the union leaders are all these big rich guys and all that kind of stuff and all that. And that's very different from the rank and file. They're not the same kind of people. That's just kind of this is kind of an example of that, right? The UAW loves Biden Harris or Harris, whomever, Harris Walz, but the rank and file just absolutely hates them.
Yeah. Well, and you were looking at this with this longshoreman, union, the strike that's going on, right?
It's not going on. They are back to work today.
Yeah, right. I was getting ready to say they just got their 68% raise to end the deal.
It's almost as if someone realized that this was really fucking terrible optics or something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think the union knows it's bad, especially when you've got a millionaire out there as your number one advocate. The more we kind of drilled into that guy on Wednesday, I couldn't believe like how tone deaf that whole.
It's cartoonish, right? Like it's he's an utterly cartoonish bad guy. It's
he is. He's a complete stereotype. Yeah.
All right. So let's move on, shall we? Joe, this is one kind of strikes. So we were talking about the slash tires, being, Antifa style, RevCom kind of direct action types going in there and slashing the tires and, things like this. And this has been kind of their MO for a while, right? Try to gunk up the works with little, small kind of spoiling attacks, right?
Yeah.
So this is a story of something of the same thing. Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say this is just more of the same. So go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that the campaign of slashing the tires on all that stuff actually began before the hurricane made landfall and has only gotten worse. So same kind of deal here with the F-35s.
You're exactly right. So this is far left agents of change armed with crowbars sabotage F-35 parts factory in the UK. Now, this is not the first time we've seen something like this in the UK. Okay, so first question. Why do we care about what's happening in the UK? Because once they figure something out in one place, it immediately gets transmitted throughout their kind of internal networks to the whole thing. So that means now, the Antifa, the Sheboygan Antifa group, right, now has, all the same stuff that the kind of as far as the plans and the things like that, like these guys used. And, and let's be honest, Joe, we've seen an evolution of their tactics, right? They learn from their failures. These people are not, we may call them morons because they're communists, but at the same time, when they screw up, they tend to learn lessons and come back with different tactics later.
They do. They tend to improve and develop. And what's funny is we like to laugh at them and say, ha ha, but they're actually working to improve themselves every single day.
Right.
It's worth paying attention to.
It's almost like they're doing training and getting classes and getting out there and networking.
And they absolutely are, right? They're out there doing stuff all the time.
UK-based anti-Israel organization Palestine Action sent several of its far-left radical members to attack the Teledyne CML composites factory in Bromborough, United Kingdom, which it claims supplies critical parts for the F-35 stealth fighters. Palestine Action's X account posted a viral video on Tuesday showing its actionists, or agents of change, conducting a rooftop entry into a factory, breaking through ceiling panels and comprising what the group claims is a clean room for the F-35 jet part production.
They did the same thing at an Elbit factory too.
That's right. That was just right after. Was it right after the October 7th? I mean, well, not right after. It was several months ago, but that was in England too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Exact same tactic through the roof. I don't know why that everyone's running these operations in what appear to be pole barns, but they are.
Right.
They were even running the same red outfits and everything. So
I think box cutter could probably get through this fiberglass paneling up there. So according to senior Teledyne manager, contamination of their clean rooms could stop production for up to 12 months. Actionists just got through to the clean room for Israel's F-35 fighter parts, jet parts. Let's see. This is from BBC News. 3 people were arrested when a factory in Wirral was targeted by pro-Palestine activists for the second time in 3 months. So that's probably when it was 3 months ago. Palestine Action Campaign Group claimed responsibility for the protest in Teledyne CML Composites in Bromborough, which it claims supplies parts for Israeli warplanes. The police said the force said that 2 people had gained access to the factory via a roof were detained inside. Palestine Action, as always, has a U.S.-based branch with a goal of dismantling the ability for the Israeli state to carry out its foreign policy objectives. Yeah, look at these guys, huh? Big surprise! Communist tattoos, Lenin.
Well, this is one particular guy, Fergie Chambers, who is the heir to the Cox Media empire. He's also a open, devoted communist and a fan of Mao. He is pledged and has been spending his fortune on a proletariat revolution to overthrow capitalism.
I will not express my opinions.
Right.
Well, and where do you suspect he picked up communism? Why,
probably
at
in
one
college.
of the elite preparatory schools that he was sent to as a child.
That's exactly right. The Washington Free Beacon reported that James Fergie Chambers, heir to this is who you're just talking about, the Cox Enterprises family fortune, has been funding the U.S.-based branch of the radical far-left group. On X, Xi Van Fleet, a survivor of the communist rule of the ex-communist leader Mao Zedong, also noted Fergie as a devoted communist. Yeah, 100% he is. And this is not the first time we've talked about him on this show. Palestine Action is supported by the Action Network, an open platform that empowers progressive causes such as communism. Yeah, there's some interesting images down here. Harris unveils budget-breaking $1.7 trillion economic plan that includes his government price controls. So clearly, communism is on the rise in various precincts. Action Network also provides support for another Marxist group, Black Lives Matter. The group takes positions many
Say it ain't
Americans
so.
Yeah, I know. Very controversial, like its view that the nuclear family, stating that we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended family and villages. Wow, very communistic of them. Many of the far left progressive are cut from Marxist cloth and serves as agents to change to usher in Marxism, followed by communism. To get there, they believe the West must collapse. Think about it: woke, illegal alien invasion, endless foreign wars, rampant inflation, fentanyl crisis, skyrocketing federal debt, out of control violent crime, and the list goes on and on. Maybe the disaster is no longer on the horizon. It's already arrived. It's almost like, Joe, like whoever wrote this has been watching our show, because you are not like getting ready for the collapse. The collapse is here.
Yeah, the collapse is here. So,
on that note, Massachusetts officially banned the Second Amendment yesterday.
Well, let's see how door-to-door gun collections goes for them.
see how that works, right?
Yeah, let's see how that works out for you. Joe, let's talk a little bit about, we're going to talk about, what do you guys think? You think we go Middle East first, or you think we go disaster prep and recovery first? I could go either way on this.
I say we do disaster prep first, then switch to Bongino's for the Middle East.
Yeah, okay. I'm good with that, because we're going to be talking Biden policy to the Middle East. So in that case, as a good transition to the disaster prep segment, Joe, tactical wisdom is becoming more and more like tactical requirements versus just wisdom that you may come in handy someday.
Let me tell you, as sad as it is, book sales went through the roof on 2 different days of the last couple of weeks. One, the day when Homeboy decided to take a few shots at Donald Trump. There was a big bump in sales the next day. But since the hurricane, book sales have been absolutely through the roof. And I want to thank our community for that, because everyone's been tweeting, hey, you should have had this book. Maybe you need this book. And that's just been really cool and really humbling to see. But I also want to point out that it sucks that it takes a disaster to get people to buy these books. So I was going to be writing a couple of knife reviews for some people who sent me knives or gave me knives. You actually saw the one that Brandon handed me from Shield Arms. I'm going to still be doing those articles, but right now, after our conversation last night on the Sons of Liberty, I decided I'm going to run another article, probably come out today, on license-free communications and what you need programmed in your radio and what radios you have right now that will enable you to get on and talk without a license right now. There's a lot of people saying, oh, but it's an emergency, so I can use any frequency. While that's true, in order to keep you from evoking the ire of the sad hams who, let's be honest, are the only reason why the FCC writes tickets to anyone, is your life has to be physically in danger at the moment you get on the radio. And that's not what's happening. A lot of folks are getting on there just wanting to talk to someone. So we want to give you some license-free options that you can use right now. And I know sad hams will say, yeah, but you get better range with having a ham license. That's completely false and untrue, because UHF is UHF and VHF is VHF, whether you have a ham license or not.
Additionally, if you have a ham license, you have to deal with people who have ham licenses.
Right. So I'm going to write an article about that and why your radio needs to be programmed today, as opposed to trying to figure it out when things happen. So that will be this week's tactical wisdom.
Very good.
Speaking of, there are a couple of tweets out there that I want to talk about, and a lot of folks already reacted to them. But first, Mrs. Tactical Wisdom and I are going to lead a Tactical Wisdom verse Bible study, where we're taking some of the verses from the Tactical Wisdom series and we're applying them to your life and helping you do that. It's going to be an 8-week study. It'll be on Tuesday nights at 6:30 Mountain, which is 8:30 Eastern, to enable folks from all over the country to get on it. Find the tweet on my thread and send me a DM, and we can get you set up for that. That'll be Tuesday nights. And on Wednesday night, I'm running another Every Man a Warrior series. And that one looks like it's pretty much full already. There are like 15, 16 guys in it. So Good stuff.
Very good. So real quick, I just want to, not so much as a promo or just a kind of announcement. If you in the audience were a backer for my Doorkickers campaign, the Doorkickers 2 campaign, check your email, and if you are a backer, you will find a link to a PDF of the entire book 2. We're wrapping up the fulfillment of that. I think we just went to print, so we're waiting on the printed copies of the black and white ash can, and then we are getting ready to send the color book to the printer. We are in the process of getting that done. And while we wait, we thought as an apology, because essentially this November, this book will be officially 2 years late for reasons, right? I don't even want to kind of go through all the reasons why it's been late, but we're the light is at the end of the tunnel. We're there. And so this is just kind of a good faith. Show of good faith to show you guys that it does exist. It is done. It's not it's not like, it's something that hasn't been created. We just are in the process of getting it done. So for all of you out there, and maybe there's not a lot of you, but check your email and get the link. If for whatever reason, if you backed it and you haven't got the link, send me a DM on Twitter or X, and I'll hook you up that way. All right, let's move on, shall we? So this segment is really I want to talk about recovery from the disaster essentially that occurred when the hurricane came through Appalachia and hit Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, to some extent Tennessee. But Tennessee actually did the right thing back in the day, and they have all their flood control dams, and who have been very effective. But especially along the French Broad area, they decided not to, for whatever reason, to do those flood control dams, and we're seeing a lot of people suffering from that. And, some of it is a disaster caused by the rain, but other things are disasters caused by inaction by the federal government, maybe, or when the federal government does act, the restrictive nature of the rules that they're putting in place. I mean, Joe, even some of that is not even the federal government. Some of it's local government that's doing that.
Well, that's the allegation. We have not been able to confirm much of this. So stand by on that.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, but the point is that, a lot of times people fail when they have the greatest amount of stress placed upon them.
We have seen some ridiculous local actions. You're right in that Lake Okeechobee Police Department trying to ban firearms, for example. That was just silly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this is not foreign terrain, right? This is something we saw during the Hurricane Katrina, debacle. And let's be honest, the Hurricane Katrina thing was as much a debacle in preparation for the disaster as it was in the execution of the recovery. I think there's going to be a lot of lessons to learn from this. And so when it comes to preparedness, we're kind of thinking, what lessons are we learning from this? And we're seeing some of this being put into place. So, all right, let's jump into the first story here. So it is official. We're not doing the Middle East one first. We're doing you shared the Middle East story.
That's what's in the notes, but okay.
No. We said we're going to switch. We're going to do
okay.
We're going to do segment 2 first, and then segment 1 we're going to do over at Rumble.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought you were probably doing something else while we were talking about that. So this first story is a BBC story. Yeah, it's just the first one there, and yep, you got it right there.
I don't know where it went in the other ones, but that's fine. Here we go.
Helena is the deadliest mainland U.S. hurricane since Katrina. Death toll of Hurricane Helena is surpassed 200, and I guarantee it'll be higher than that in the final counting. As rescuers continue to search for survivors from the storm that tore across the U.S. Southeast, more than half the deaths were in North Carolina, where entire communities were uprooted and devastated. By the way, watcher, I added a link that's beneath. It's the third link now. It's under the drone footage one. So just make sure you get ready for that one, because that really shows like some before and after stuff. That's just amazing. Biden received an aerial tour of the damage of Tallahassee, Florida on Thursday, where hurricane made landfall as a Category 4 storm last week. Speaking later at Ray City, Georgia, Biden told residents, "I see you, I hear you, agree with you, and I promise you, we have your back. We're going to stay until you're restored." Now, that sounds very, I guess he has to say that, but show me, right? Right. The president has approved federal disaster assistance for survivors in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Tens of thousands of people have no running water in North Carolina, which has seen some of the most severe impacts of the storm, particularly in the mountainous area of Asheville. "I feel like I just survived the apocalypse," says somebody from North Carolina. An elderly couple, Jerry and Marcia Savage, died in bed when a tree fell on their home in South Carolina. The grandson told the Associated Press. He said that they were found hugging one another. Hundreds of roads remain closed, hampering efforts to send aid to the hard-hit communities. Private citizens have been helping distribute aid in a variety of ways, including mule and privately owned helicopter. So the BBC story has recognized mules and the helicopters, so that's good. Mountain Mule Packer Ranch has deployed a team of mules to carry thousands of supplies into remote communities. The sure-footed pack animals are familiar with backcountry trails and can travel on broken asphalt in ways vehicles cannot. It's almost like the old ways are the best ways sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. He said they're perfectly prepared for conditions of the mountains, she says. So far, the team of 9 mules has delivered hundreds of pounds of insulin, baby formula, nappies, which are diapers, canned foods, cleaning supplies, animal feed, she tells BBC News, adding the biggest challenge that they face so far is deep mud left behind by the floods. It's just, yep. And there we go. We've got the mule teams there. North Carolina prisons on Wednesday relocated 800 inmates due to the lack of power and running water, according to the state's Department of Corrections. Over 2,000 prisoners were relocated from other prisons earlier this week. Family members of prisoners told the Asheville Citizen-Times newspaper that they haven't been able to contact them. I mean, I'm not too worried about prisoners' families not being able to get a hold of them because of this. More than 6,700 Army and Air National Guard members from 16 states are assisting with on-the-ground response. I think that's good. According to the National Guard, the president has deployed 1,000 active duty troops to help with aid efforts. That's new information that I've not heard. Have you heard anything about that, Joe?
Nope, have not.
Former President Donald Trump toured damaged areas in Georgia earlier the week. More rainfall is expected in the coming days in parts of the Gulf Coast in Florida, which has complicated the recovery. Oh, hold on a second. Ursa Theodorus for $20 says John Mosby had to cancel a horse packing class recently due to lack of interest. Might be something to look into. Yeah.
I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show.
Yeah.
And thank you for that very generous gift there. Thank you. Let's see. The Biden administration has shipped more than 8.8 million meals, 7.4 million liters of water, 150 generators, 225,000 tarps to the region. So the sad thing is, Joe, is that they ship all this stuff to the region and then it just sits in these kind of, depots and whatnot, and it doesn't get distributed, or it goes bad, or, I mean, it's there oftentimes there are some good things that are happening, but for whatever reason, it's the inefficiency of the bureaucracy is where they fail.
Well, and we mentioned this before, but this is where all of that stuff was allowed to rot at the airport in Puerto Rico for this very reason,
Right.
right? The other problem we have, and this is information coming in, is that all of the FEMA agencies are saying that, hey, you can't bring in that water you bought at Target. It has to come from a preferred vendor, which just tells me a little bit about kickbacks and why they allow
Right.
preferred vendors. First of all, stuff from donations costs them nothing. Stuff from their preferred vendors costs more than it would cost you or I to buy it. So it's a little bit sketchy, to say the least. So
yeah, I mean that's definitely a great example. Just the whole preferred vendor thing. Yeah, I mean the problem is you could have the greatest of intentions on why you come up with something like a preferred vendor, but it ends up turning into a kickback scheme.
it does.
All right, moving on to this next one here. This is pretty. I thought when I saw this yesterday, I made a point to show my wife because I wanted her to see just like what it looks like on the ground in some of these places. This is drone footage. And I'm not exactly sure where this is at. This is maybe like the French Broad or something like that. It seems like one of the bigger rivers, maybe Asheville area. Does it say on the post?
Not sure.
Yeah, drone footage reveals the heartbreaking devastation left by Hurricane Helena in Marshall, North Carolina. This is a small, predominantly Christian town. The people abandoned by and neglected by their own government are left to pick up the pieces. Yet, what little remains, they stand resilient, beginning a long, painful process of rebuilding. Of course, that's the commentary of the person who wrote this, but I think it kind of speaks for itself here. These images are pretty powerful. And everything is just covered in mud. Have you guys ever been in the aftermath of a big flood?
Yeah, I've been at several hurricanes: Katrina, Irene, and Sandy.
Oh, Kevin Dorr for $10 says this morning Bill Hemmer on Fox was interviewing some guys with beards who came from Florida to help North Carolina. Every time they were critical of the federal or state or local official getting in the way, he cut them off. Well,
so this is something that we talked about last night, and something I talked about in the aftermath of Maui, and something me and Angry American had a lengthy phone conversation about yesterday. Stay tuned; you may see some surprising operations happen that involve helicopters and not a lot of pre-approval from certain agencies. But
yeah, not a lot of permission.
yeah, it's better to beg forgiveness and ask permission. But I pointed out that, hey, listen, you need to find ways in and out of your neighborhood. Might not be vehicle ways, but in and out of your neighborhood that they can't block, because they only have so many police officers and National Guardsmen they can call in, and they can't block every route, goat path, foot trail, and two-track everywhere. You need to find ways in and out of your own property, because a lot of folks who are being threatened with arrest for returning to their own property, and there's several videos of that circulating around. I get it. They're going to claim it's public safety, but there's absolutely no circumstance, short of me being arrested for a crime, where the government can tell me I cannot go to my own property. They ran into this problem when Gretchen Whitmer told folks during COVID that they could not go to their second homes. They had to stay in their first. And they got a lot of court challenges, and they lost every single one of them, because you cannot tell people they can't go to their own homes or their own property.
Yeah.
And when a government tells you that, you find another way to do it. It's just that simple, right? Yeah, you could push the issue and get arrested, or you could just find another way and do your own thing without government interference. That's what you need to be working on. Your map study needs to tell you that.
Yeah, so
it really
the
needs to be
danger is when
assured.
the government tries to control access to like public roads and things like this. That's what they'll use as the kind of the tool for that. But ultimately, they can't stop you from being on your own property. So
It really does need to be assured. Only those who did not obey survived.
yeah, yes. Um,
I would say this if I ever encountered one of those roadblocks. I would quote Pompey. You know what I'm going to say? Do not quote laws to we who carry swords. Terrible idea.
So here's that third link you had there, Scott.
yeah, this is pretty crazy. So this is a before and after from satellite imagery here. This is crazy. Look at this. It doesn't even look like the same place. Look at this. There is. I think go back. I want to like.
We'll go over it again.
It's just
only 19
unbelievable.
seconds.
I know. It's just like this one right here is just like, look at this. There wasn't even a creek there, and now it's a.
Someone pointed this out. They're going to have to redraw some topographical maps after this because streams have been rerouted, entire rivers.
Yeah.
Right. And this is how that happens. If you're ever curious how, hydrology happens. Yeah.
Yeah. This is who?
Anyway, we're back to the beginning. Wild.
Yeah, that's crazy. I when I saw that, I was like, whoa, I'm adding this in there. That's pretty. I mean, because you just think like, oh, well, a bridge is out, or maybe the road got covered in mud, or your house, the first floor of your house gets flooded out. No. The entire
rest of this happens, and because a lot of people say, well, why is there so much damage that far inland? Because it hit the shore and then went up. Well, the damage that far inland is because it was no longer over water, and it was lacking the ability to generate more wind. It was in the mountains. It stalled out. Well, all that moisture has to go somewhere, right? So instead of the storm moving across the area at 60, 70 miles an hour like it was, it stopped there, and all the water in those clouds had to go somewhere, and it went down. And that's why you have more severe damage at the far end of the hurricane. Didn't have anywhere else to go. Normally, when a hurricane hits land, it bounces off, goes back out to sea, and dumps the water at sea.
Yeah.
This one dumped it all right here at the very end of its trail.
Well, and the other part of it too is when you dump a bunch of rain on a mountain, it all goes, it kind of throws it right into those floodplains very quickly, and so it concentrates the amount of rain. So it's even worse than a regular kind of if it were just happen on regular terrain.
Let me address a question in the chat. Did they give enough time for them to evacuate? Who? No one's in charge of the hurricane. I mean, if you're not paying attention to the weather, it's on you whether or not you evacuate or not. The problem I have is everyone's saying the government's at fault for all this kind of stuff. The government may be at fault for the response, but evacuation is on you. You either decide to stay or you decide to go. And that's got to be based on your own review. Don't wait for the government to tell you when to do or not do things, because they're going to tell you the wrong time, either too early or too late. You have to make your own decision on when you're going to evacuate or if you're going to evacuate at all. I'm not required to evacuate. They could say it's a mandatory evacuation all they want. They can't make me evacuate.
Yeah. All right. Let's look at the next one here. So, Joe, this kind of is going to get us into, the FEMA money question thing here, right? Flooded towns are reporting looters slashing truck tires and stealing food and medical supplies. Every looter caught so far in North Carolina and Tennessee has been an illegal alien. Wow. Big. I mean, not a surprise because I just expect this normally, I guess. But
that's the Yale Law School of 2026 class right there.
It's exactly right.
Because they're all doctors and lawyers, I've been told. But here they are. And these towns are having horrible, horrible problems with looting. In fact, NC Scout is delivering some equipment to assist a client with some security issues they're having. It's not being reported widely in the news, but there are a lot of looting issues going on in some of these areas where you've got a bunch of illegals who have been dumped off with literally no support structure, and then what little support structure there was went away. So what did they think was going to happen here?
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. So,
hey, Josh, if that's true, can you send that info to me, please? Thank you.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know.
Oh, and by the way, Josh, while I'm talking to you, your Sibley and Spooning comment, you're about to be in the woods of Tennessee with me alone. Might want to dial it back.
Same,
carry
on.
Lee said soon as mended, right? Right.
Listen, Josh, the Tennessee wilderness, 2 men enter, 1 man leave.
This Watcher, this might be a good kind of before we get into the feds. I know this is not one of our favorite talking heads in the media, but I think what he's saying here is probably right. I just put it in the private chat. Let's share this video first, and then we'll get into our talk of the feds, shall we?
Apparently that page does not exist.
It's an Elon Musk tweet. So
thank you, Hunch.
He deleted it.
Oh, weird. Well, it's I can still see it. So I'll share it from my screen. It's a Tim Kennedy. That's interesting that he deleted.
Hunch just gifted 10 more memberships, so thank you, sir.
Thank you, Hunch.
Oh, Hunch, unbelievable! I don't have the chat open, so I can't see it right now. Yes, Hunch is always.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, always a brother in the struggle, and he's doing his part. Thank you very much, brother, and looking forward to hanging out again next time I get back to the States.
He and I hung out at a hotel bar not too long ago. Good man.
Try this one, Watcher.
Hotel rooms before everyone starts talking. Pinochet, yeah, those videos were great. He put them out because people needed to learn very quickly how to hand program their UV5R and AR-152 radios. Again, program them today so that you don't have to do it when the rain's coming down.
Yeah. So let's see what old Tim has.
Are they still not there anywhere? What are you seeing from FEMA in the federal response, if any?
I mean, they're present. They're in the way. They are directly interrupting our ability to conduct missions and operations. And I'm not going to disparage anybody because we are trying to work within partner relationships, both government and non-government entities within state and federal and county. I went to put a couple of people into a hotel last night, and they have a security guard at the hotel. And they said, "Oh, we're so sorry. The entire hotel has been booked for federal employees." And I was like, no, I have people that would just pull it out of a mountain that are living out in the hills, and there's not a place for me to put them because we have federal employees that are staying in the hotel. I slept in this white car last night. I smell like foot and death right now, as does every single person on our team. Not a single one of us slept. We got done maybe at 3 o'clock the moment the sun was up and we could fly helicopters again. We were back in the air, and we have not stopped. And I was like on the fence about trying to get on this program or not. I want people to understand how incredible this organization is, Save Our Allies, and all the work that all of these volunteers are doing. But people, this is biblical level devastation. This is apocalyptic, the things that we see out there.
These are towns up in the mountains that are 10, 20, 40 miles away from any other town. And people on the ground like you need helicopters from the government, and they will not release them. I have heard that time and again. And the people who are delivering aid up in the mountains are now getting requests for body bags. Tim, we got to
you are 100% correct. Oh, you're right about that. And there was.
I'm gonna pause and just say something here. Apart from think of all the things the federal government could be doing as part of this response that don't include lending out federal assets. Just as a for instance, all of these helicopters have a set window they can operate in before they have to have specific maintenances done on them. And I guarantee that there's not enough helicopter mechanics in the area to finish all those checks and do all that maintenance. But you know who could open up a shop and have it done in an afternoon and just have rotating stations where guys could fly in and have that done in hours? Well, the military does. Weird.
The military doesn't really have the know-how to work on civilian helicopters.
I disagree. They might not have the MIMs right there available for that specific helicopter. The type of stuff you're talking about, though, is very basic. Make sure X bolt is still tight. Make sure Y bolt is still tight.
There's a lot of video going on yesterday of an Mi-8 helicopter that
civilian one.
Privately owned. I know who owns that. Let's call it semi-privately owned. But certain agencies have a call on that helicopter. Unfortunately, it's not being used right now. But there's also a couple other privately owned helicopters that we might be in touch with. I think everyone saw Angry American trying to arrange that.
Yeah.
And to think that we've gotten a hold of two. And we're trying to find landing zones and all that kind of stuff. And we're trying to do it in cooperation with the federal government. That's just not working out well. So we'll see what develops. We have actually invited Tucker Carlson along on this mission. So we will see what happens. We will see what happens.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be very cool.
Well, I think the biggest piece is that Angry American wants to get a bunch of video of what's what conditions on the ground actually are and get it out. That's the biggest piece of this mission.
If you guys need a photojournalist, I might know somebody. Anyhow.
I think he has a whole team of his people, but we will see. We're still planning, so.
We're
still planning.
Different person than I assumed then. All right. You want to finish this video?
Sure. I think we're okay. I think we get the point. The point is that the federal government is not always very helpful in these situations. Yeah. Surprise, surprise, surprise. All right, let's jump into this. So evidently, a lot of the money that was meant for all of this stuff was spent on other things, like illegal immigrants. It's almost like they don't like you. And the money's meant for Americans is being spent on people who aren't Americans. Hold a second. Squishy Hunter for $5 says, actual question. How does a total noob find training to help in a disaster such as this? Well, it's
Joe, there's a website.
I'm sorry. Say that again. I was reading a chat.
How does a total noob find training to help in a natural disaster such as this?
All over. I mean, look, my community security class is exactly about this, right? How to run anti-looter and security operations in your local area. And look, getting a relief column from one place to another is nothing more than running a patrol, right? You got to move out on foot, carry the stuff on your back, and get it to people. They're all over. Check out NC Scouts training programs. His radio training program will get you way out ahead of anyone else. His RTO course, an advanced RTO course.
If
get
I
out
make
there,
a recommendation,
find the classes. They exist. John Mosby runs pack trading classes. So.
Yeah, if I may make a recommendation, if you're a complete noob, there might be a series of books you could start reading before you attend the classes.
There might be a series of books called Strategic Smartness or something, Tactical Wisdom, I think it is, that will get you there.
So
absolutely.
All right, let's jump into this article here. America Last. This is a Zero Hedge article. After spending $640 million on migrants and billions abroad, FEMA is suddenly broke. The Biden-Harris administration's America Last policies have left the country vulnerable between draining the strategic petroleum reserves and sending hundreds of billions in cash and equipment to Ukraine, such as electrical transformers that are now needed by hurricane. Hold on a second. Random PNW Guy 84 for $10 says, how does the government impeding civilian help affect the greater zeitgeist of coming collapse and anti-federal government sentiment between this and FEMA being out of money because of illegal. Joe, you want to handle that?
That's exactly the truth. I guarantee you that if this hurricane made landfall in New Orleans, there would be a very, very different story. Or if there was some sort of natural disaster that befell Chicago or Philadelphia or Baltimore, you would see a very, very different response. But because of where it is, you're seeing them say, here's $750 for a U-Haul, get off the land, we want BlackRock to buy. I think that it ups it, and I think you're going to see some conflict come of it. Keep in mind that in the background, there's this drive. They want some sort of a civil conflict. This just fuels that even more. And they're hoping some Bubba with a shotgun takes a shot at a FEMA crew or something, because it justifies a lot of things they want to do. I just think it feeds the zeitgeist and the anger and the anti-federal sentiment.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Let me get back into this one. And FEMA spending $640 million to help migrants. So these are the migrants that come into the states. Then all of a sudden they give them over to FEMA to help take care of them. Right. The agency tasked with emergency preparedness is now broke and doesn't have enough money to get through hurricane season, which typically lasts through November. The agency is being. This is according to the AP. Agency is being stretched as it works with states to assess damage from Hurricane Helena. The storm struck Florida last week and then plowed through several states in the southeast, flooding towns and killing more than 160 people. Now we know that is over 200. Mayorkas was not specific on how much additional money the agency may need, but his remarks on Air Force One underscored concerns voiced by President Joe Biden and some lawmakers earlier this week that Congress may need to pass a supplemental spending bill this fall to help states with recovery efforts. Let's see. Mayorkas said, we are meeting the immediate needs with the monies we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting, and FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season. Wow. It's almost like he has completely mismanaged something that's important to his job. Maybe you should fire him. I mean, what do I know? Isn't that what you normally do when people drop the ball like that?
Normally, yes.
And when you rob Peter to pay Paul, Peter ultimately, if he needs the money down the line, is not going to have it. And while the administration spends billions more on Ukraine, when, by the way, there was another multi-billion funding pledge made by Joe Biden recently when Zelensky was in town, while the administration sends billions to Ukraine, VP Kamala Harris has offered a laughable $750 in FEMA hurricane relief for victims. So is that like $750 per person? I mean, what are they just doing? Handing out EBT cards or something?
That's what they claim, but everyone who has applied for it so far has been denied. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So here it is. Biden announced a $2.4 billion aid package. I mean, we need a $2.4 billion aid package for North Carolina alone, much less for the entire region.
Blaine put out a tweet where he broke down that equals out to like a minimum of $1,500 per Ukrainian citizen, and U.S. citizens get $750. So.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Yeah. This tweet, if you go down a little further, watch, there's a good tweet here by Isabella Maria DeLuca. Yeah, that one. So far this year, the United States has given $24 billion to Ukraine, $11 to Israel, $1.9 to Ethiopia, $1.6 to Jordan, $1.4 to Egypt, $1.1 to Afghanistan, $1.1 to Somalia, $1 billion to Yemen, a little less than $1 billion to Congo, $800 million, actually closer to $900 million to Syria, and $9,000 per illegal immigrant that has entered the U.S. this year. And Americans who have lost everything to Hurricane Helena will be getting $750, courtesy of FEMA. I give you the Biden administration, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a slap in the face, and it's meant to be. It's part of the humiliation ritual.
Peter says helicopter tours over on Rumble says, I'm seeing reports the FBI has compiled a red list containing 400,000 names to be immediately arrested upon unrest or martial law. Is that a foiable document under the Sixth Amendment? I don't know.
So let me address a few things in this. First of all, the biggest and most glaring issue that I want everyone to know is it's spelled Martial, Marshal, as in military, not Marshal as in the U.S. Marshal Service. Let's fix that first. Second of all, yes, there is a list. It exists, and I guarantee you that I am on it. Anyway, yeah, it's foiable. But what will happen is you will get a letter explaining that for national security reasons, you can't see it. You can request it all day long, but they'll tell you, no, we're not going to give it to you.
And if you ever do get it approved, it will be redacted. And I mean, the entire thing will be redacted.
Yeah, it'll just be a list of black bars. But here's the thing. Yeah, this exists and has existed for a very long time. It's actually not anything new. It began back in the 50s and 60s. And for the record, it actually happened during World War II. There were a number of people that were, committed to mental institutions, who were folks the government wanted shut up and locked up, and they remained there for the entire duration of World War II. So you should understand that that's how it happens. No, Doc, it's not marital law; it's martial law.
All right, Gene Rogers, a member for 19 months. Thank you all for what you do. What are your critical comms to have in prep items? Prime days are coming up. Yeah, that's a good thing to think about for upcoming Prime days.
Yeah, so I would watch for a series of lists of links from us, and we'll throw them out there. But here's where the Baofeng radio really, really shines, because I can buy 7 or 8 of them, and then if I drop one in the water and lose it, it's not a big deal, right? Buy a bunch of them and have them. So any type of the Baofeng radio, although the AR-152 is a lot more sturdy of a radio, it's also a lot more expensive. It's $70 versus the $25 or so for a Baofeng. Some type of UHF, VHF radio for short-range communications with your friends and neighbors running security ops. The other things to have are ways to purify your water and ways to move around unrestricted. Muck boots, something people don't think about. There's a lot of mud and a lot of water. Those are better than your regular boots for moving around. Perhaps some sort of a water vehicle, right? Even if you don't live near a river, having a kayak or a canoe is not a bad idea, just in case something like this happens. But maybe we'll make a list, Gene, and put it out as an article on the Future Conflict Locals page or something.
Yeah.
And get that list out there. So great question. And I could talk for 4 hours on what you need to have, but I would start with a radio because you need to be able to communicate with other people.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about the Baofeng, it enables you to receive public radio broadcasts too, FM radio. So.
Question I was wondering the other day that you and I kind of talked about a little bit, and I just had never really heard you talk about it on the show. We talk about Baofengs a lot. Under what circumstances do you recommend somebody get a CB?
Okay, is anyone else having trouble hearing Watcher, or is it just me?
He's a little gravelly to me.
Well, so under what scenarios is it useful for somebody to get a CB versus a Baofeng?
After circumstances, I lose you, and then I hear Baofeng.
Weird. Okay, don't worry about it.
So under what circumstances would you get a Baofeng versus, say, like a CB?
Well, 2 different tools, 2 different jobs. A CB is if I'm in a more rural location and I've got some elevation and I can get some distance on it. But for right in the area, I still want the Baofeng. So I guess the answer is, why not both? So
yeah.
I think I fixed it.
Yeah, that's way better. So.
Yeah, it sounds better. All right. Jim tells you, member for 13 months here, says, hopefully you've been paying attention to the solar flare activity. You should see some amazing auroras over the country this weekend. Yeah, Joe, you were saying that you guys are looking for that probably tonight, right?
Yeah, it says tonight. It's going to be some ideal conditions. When I went to bed last night, it was a little bit cloudy, but This morning it was clear, and it's supposed to be clear tonight. So I got a new video camera I want to try out, so we're going to check it out, and we're going to be out there. So good stuff. So yeah, it should be a good night for that. We will see, and that also will impact radio communications, by the way. Not to the point. If you guys have ever seen the movie Frequency, they try using a ham radio during the aurora, and it connects them with the past. That's not real. I'm just going to throw that out there. It will give you some very interesting range things. And Pinochet, yes, Matt's Guerrilla Guide to the Baofeng Pocket version, that's top bound, is a fantastic version. Great for throwing in your backpack and carrying with you. So, yeah. He sold 400 copies just yesterday. So,
all right, let's we've got a couple $2 super chats over here in Rumble. Let's get to these. I think we're clear for now. Alpha Charlie Concepts, $2 over on Rumble for Joe's Coffee Fund. I'll make sure I'll give you $2 for coffee next time I see you. Buy you a cup of coffee next time I see you, Joe. UCO Steve for $2 says, again, Biden-Harris hates hillbillies. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Hillbillies
it's not even hillbillies. It's white people. Let's just be honest.
BKO Kiss says for $2 says, OGA Ron denies any connection to that MI8 winky face.
He's the number one MI8 appreciator in the world, and he's probably been on more of them than anybody I know.
All right, let's get back to the topic at hand. We were back into this article. Watch the political cartoon down at the bottom is shockingly apt. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had been showing that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that one is good.
Communities are being wiped off the map. I mean, I think this is the kind of thing that we literally saw pictures of that earlier in the show. All right. Brianna Morello has just been all over this on X. I guess she used to be on Fox, didn't she? I think.
Morello, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. I haven't watched Fox since 2020. So, all right.
So
Moving on.
You mean sometime around when they called Arizona for Biden?
Actually, that was 2021. Well, no, that was 2020. But I was over here in Korea by the election. All right, going on to this next story. So, Joe, we talk a lot about threats to the grid and all this type of stuff. This has been an absolute just killer on power. And I'm hoping that let's talk a little bit about this first of all, and then we'll kind of transition into preps and, maybe answer some of the questions about what kind of preps you would want to have ahead of something like this because the loss of power, and let's assume that nothing happens to your house. The loss of power is probably the most likely thing to happen in a bad storm like this. This story here is Duke Energy confirms grid apocalypse in North Carolina amid backlash over Biden-Harris FEMA mess. Duke Energy has confirmed on X that hundreds of power substations are offline in the Carolinas. We initially reported on this unfolding power grid crisis Wednesday morning. Citing experts who warned that it could take a very long time to restore power to everyone due to shortages of transformers and other electronic equipment, critically low U.S. stockpiles. Approximately 370 substations were out of service from the storm in Duke Energy Carolina's service area. For those that were damaged and can't be repaired in a timely manner, mobile substations are installed to allow us to restore service as soon as it's safe to do so. Bill Norton, a spokesperson for Duke Energy, noted with water levels coming down, we're starting to see some of this damage. We had entire substations that were underwater. And as of Thursday morning, if you could pull up the power outage map, Watcher, we can just kind of show the folks that this is a live kind of thing. So you can see the country there, red versus red, amber, yellow, and blue. You can click on the states there directly. So just maybe click on North Carolina. And so this shows you the outage level in various counties and whatnot. Maybe click on a county, see if it'll go drill even further down.
No.
Okay, so it doesn't really show you the map. It just shows you the name of the county and everything. So it just tells you the outage level for that county, but just in numbers. But anyway, this shows you kind of a swath of where the big negative effects have occurred. So it's not all the entire state, but still, this is a huge amount of people in this area because the power outage is almost total in these areas, right, Joe?
Yeah, and guess what? Who knows the backlog for transformer orders right now? How long does it take to get them?
Well, if you go back, if you go back to the Zero Hedge article, Watcher, there's a Jesse D. Jenkins tweet here, which is kind of telling, goes exactly to the point that Joe was just talking about. He says, this is devastating. We do not have 360 substations worth of transformers and other electrical equipment sitting in stockpiles waiting to be deployed. This could take a very long time to restore power to everyone. Are we facing Hurricane Maria type impact on grid infrastructure?
So it's generally 18 to 27 months to get a new transformer from the manufacturer.
Yeah.
So once we run out of our stockpile, which is nowhere near 360, it's going to take a very, very long time. So these people may be out of power for months yet. So this is what I mean when you look at my books. I talk about a medium term without rule of law situation. Without, they can't run police operations and fire operations as effectively as they can with power. Keep in mind, too, that those places, the government, will get power before you do. Residential customers are the last to get power restored. This is why we, both Matt and I, recommend Starlink. We had a power outage here just a couple nights ago, and I was able to take the Starlink and plug it in to my battery bank and I had Wi-Fi, which also able to make phone calls. If you have a standard home internet connection, that's not going to work because the internet relay station near you also doesn't have power, and therefore your internet signal doesn't go anywhere. Starlink will.
Yeah,
so that is a good selling point for Starlink,
especially those mini Starlinks, right? The new ones. They're like literally this big. I mean,
they make a backpacking style one now. Yeah.
And the other thing too that I understand with Starlink is that you don't have to have a regular subscription. You can kind of plug in and get it like you can buy a month as needed, right? Isn't that how Starlink works?
Yes.
So,
and in all honesty, Elon Musk just revealed that if you live in North Carolina or Eastern Tennessee, he just shut off your payments. It's now free.
It's free
for the duration. So,
so there's another tweet a little further down. This one right here, and this is where this really kind of gets under my skin here, right? So. Fee money gone to illegals. Transformer stockpiles gone to Ukraine, oddly enough. It says here that we did not have the equipment readily available for these to be shipped in large quantities of transformers and other electrical equipment to Ukraine. Both our military and non-military support to Ukraine has left us less prepared for domestic disasters like Hurricane Helena.
I know it's off topic. Let me address Karen's comment in the chat. We have so many trees, can't see how Starlink will get signal. Hey, Watcher and Scott, you've both been here. Are there a few trees where I am?
Oh, yeah. And it worked great.
And it works great. And actually, in addition to my Starlink, the boys at S.H.I.E.L.D. bought out a temporary Starlink, one of the little ones, and it worked fantastic. So, you don't need to worry about the trees. Here's the thing about that, too, is everyone talks about getting a satellite phone for emergency preparedness. If you have Starlink and your phone has Wi-Fi calling, you effectively have given yourself
a satellite phone.
A satellite phone. So
you just need to be able to power the Starlink. That's all. That's the only kind of, and
that's why I keep posting these solar panels and battery banks.
And
the sun's always going to come up.
Maybe the answer is an inverter in your car, something like that. I mean, just anything that you can get
be redundant. Have an inverter in your car. Have a solar power bank. Have all kinds of things, because really you can run your car like a generator and charge up your battery bank and then plug in your Starlink to it. So
Laura Cox says, I'm listening to you guys, but I can't chat and drive. We appreciate you, Laura. Take care. So right here you got this tweet from Ambassador Bridget something or other to Ukraine. We're helping reconnect the power after Russia's barbaric attacks, thanks to USAID. Wow, Joe, shocking the USAID would be in the middle of giving away our power transformers to
my grandfather used to work for USAID, and I always thought they were spies. I also always thought my grandfather was a spy. Draw your own conclusions from that however you wish.
True. Let's see. More 4 transformers to keep Ukraine's iron people moving goods and people supporting their. And I didn't realize there was like we were sending this kind of stuff all over the world. I assume this stuff is all U.S. stuff that they've sent over there, but I know their power grid is different than ours, so I'm curious maybe if I don't know how that works. Anyway, this doesn't surprise me in the slightest. So, Joe, real quick, let's talk about
kit.
What's that?
Everyone's asking the price of the Starlink mini kit. I'm trying to find it right now.
Hey, Joe, let's talk.
The mini kit is $599.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, let's talk preps, for this kind of situation, right? Like if you've got a house and, you're not going to be putting a full solar setup on your roof, and you're not going to have the full, whole house battery packs and things like that. What would you recommend as like a minimum, whether it's a mobile system or whether it's something you've got in your house? What would you recommend as a minimum setup for kind of backup power?
The EcoFlow, any one of them, you got to figure out what your power needs are. Every house is going to be different, but you need something big and substantial. And I know a lot of people say, oh, these things are so expensive. Listen, man, things cost money, right? So, like the EcoFlow that I show a lot, I think we all saw the EcoFlow that Brent had here during the power outage here at Camp Ponderosa. He had 2 of those units, and they're pretty good. They run about $600 to $1,700, depending on how many watts you want. But you need some sort of a large power bank, and I mean a large one of the big heavy ones, to actually run anything household-wise. If you just want to run 1 or 2 lights or just run your internet, you can get by with one of the small $200 to $500 size ones. But beyond that, you're going to need a much more hefty battery, because the draw on things like your refrigerator and your freezer is pretty incredible. So you need a bigger one. It doesn't matter which brand you use, although I prefer EcoFlow or Jackery. They're both really good. Get out there and get something. Blue Eddy is good too. I have one of those.
So, I mean, essentially, you're looking at solar into a battery pack that allows you to kind of distribute power as needed.
These solar kits, there are 2 pieces. There's the battery bank and the solar panel, right?
Yeah.
The battery bank is the thing you're really going to need to invest in, because that's the thing that stores the power you're going to use. The panels, you want something in the 150 to 300 watt panels, because the larger the panel, the faster that thing recharges, right? You can get 400, 500 watt panels, but they're very expensive. You get something 100 to 200, it's going to charge at a reasonable rate and be relatively inexpensive. So, and by relatively inexpensive, I mean a couple $100. But they can charge in just a few hours of sunlight.
Yeah, I mean, these things are really handy. And then, the other thing too to think about is, to have a little bit of infrastructure that goes well in a kind of low power environment. So LED lights are like an amazing thing for when you are low
That
on
draw
power, right?
almost no power. Yeah.
Right. And I would recommend in addition to whatever power kind of charging things that you get, whether it's for your cell phones or all that kind of stuff, I absolutely get a battery, like a bank of LED lights that you can run off of that, because at night having a nice, being able to light up an entire room is a huge psychological advantage in a situation where the power is down. All right. Anything else you think we need to touch on with kind of preps for this kind of scenario, Joe?
Well, I want to point out a couple of things. Water. You can't store enough water for your long-term needs, but you can store enough for your short-term needs. So store enough water to get you through about 2 weeks. And then beyond that, store methods of water purification, whether it's tablets, whether it's boiling water, or whatever. I avoid the chlorine bleach solution. I know a lot of guys swear by it, but it's way too easy to poison yourself with chlorine bleach. Did I put in 1 drop or 2? Or you're using a little dropper, then all of a sudden you sneeze and you send a whole bunch of chlorine in there, and you're like, it's probably good enough. And then you die. So I recommend iodine tablets or things like that.
Yeah.
Some sort of purification tablets. So get there. And then I store my short-term water needs internally. That's enough water for 1 day. That's not a long-term strategy. Bear Grylls ran a TV show where they gave him food and water. I'm just throwing that out there. Anyway, you need about 14 days worth of non-perishable foods, canned foods that you can get through, canned or dehydrated, that you can get through. And after that, you need the ability to produce food or get food on your own. Fish hooks, ways to grow food. You should already be growing your own food. But more importantly, what I want everyone to understand is you need to have some type of emergency bag where when they say, hey, there's a flood coming and you have exactly 30 minutes to move, you should be able to get by with that bag for 72 hours with nothing else. Right. And that's the biggest problem. And somebody said, well, what if all your preps wash away? That's what Barrel and Hatchet said. And he's right. But once I know that a hurricane is coming, that emergency bag and my personal defense weapon will never be outside of my arm's reach. Right. I should be able to grab it as the water comes pouring through the windows, throw it on my back and go, and I won't lose it. So you should have a certain amount of your preps in position that you can carry it with you. Whether that's a 14-day ruck or a 3-day assault pack, whatever it is, once you know that something is coming down the road, you should have that available and ready to move with you everywhere you go at that point. I know everyone says, well, what about the amount of warning? Look, there was plenty of warning that a hurricane was coming, right? Maybe the day before it makes landfall, you get that bag around and you keep it with you or on your person. So.
Hey Joe, did they ever come to market with those water generators? The atmospheric water, the water stills. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but they're still working on those kinds of things. Yeah. There's that one and a really nice one for reverse osmosis. So, for changing unpure or salinated water into drinking water. So they're working on a couple of those. They're really too big right now to carry. The other thing that you want to start carrying with you as soon as you hear that some sort of bad weather is coming your way is the thing we already talked about, your radio, right? It should be with you where you can use it. I have a separate, real small solar panel that has a USB out, and its sole purpose is charging radio batteries, right? I can keep one battery on my radio and the other one connected to the charger at all times, and it's always getting a trickle charge. So be ready.
Squishy Hunter's $10 super chat over on Rumble it kind of opens up the discussion on something I've seen a lot on X the last couple of days. He says for $10, he says if you can dodge the feds, you can dodge a ball. That kind of brings the point up of like, you should start acting. You should be ready to act like this is hostile territory, right? That's one of the
Absolutely. I've been saying this for a while. You're already living in a denied environment. It's even more so in North Carolina and Tennessee, and you need to be acting that way. Not walking right down the main roads, finding ways in and out of places that you can't be seen. Because if they see you, they're going to ask you what you're doing there. It's none of their business what I'm doing there.
right. Yeah, I mean, I thought this was actually a pretty good. It's good business practices, right? Even anytime there is any kind of a threat, security threat within your area, you should kind of be aware and avoid contact, right? Know where you're going, know the back routes, know the kind of the danger areas and whatnot, and plan accordingly. And that goes back to that area study, right? You can identify a lot of these places before it happens.
A Pinochet helicopter tours. The answer is Tactical Wisdom 3 and 4.
All right. All right. Let's move on to our second topic here today. So we're going to talk about the Middle East policy. But before we
let me address one thing real quick. PMC Kechny, that's all well and good. The Onyx thing, right up until the cell phone network stops working.
Yeah, because you need the towers to work, right?
Yeah,
you need
paper, maps, and a compass. So,
yeah, especially if it's your backyard, right? I mean,
now for planning purposes, Onyx is a great thing. So is US Topo. All these different mapping apps are great right now, but once the power goes out, it's not very reliable for me. So, yeah, that's just one more thing I got to keep charged. So,
all right. So I tell you what, we're gonna transition to Bongino's for topic 2 here, where we kind of discuss the Middle East policy and essentially why we are now the big Middle East war is finally here, and how the policy of the last 3 years, 3.5 years, 4 years has essentially put us here. So we're going to transition to Bongino's for that. Joe, final thoughts for the YouTube audience?
MyTopo.com will build you any sort of a topographical map at any level of detail you ask them to for around $25. Great thing to buy. They come waterproof, ready to go. Make it happen.
Very good. Very good. Watcher.
Donate time and money if you can to the victims, because as has been said multiple times by many people, we the people are all we've got.
Yeah, help your fellow man. And you know what? I want to thank you, Watcher. One more thing before we go from YouTube. There's a lot of folks who are out there saying, yeah, but Asheville's a liberal hellhole and they voted for this and blah, blah, blah. Listen, be better than them. That's how they feel about you. Mm-hmm. We're still going to help them because we're better people than they are. We don't just write off fellow Americans because they think differently. That's what the left does. We are better than that. We will continue to help.
All right. Guys, that's about it for YouTube today. Let's go ahead and transition over, and we'll pick it back up over on Rumble.
2, 0, 1.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone.
3, 6, 4, 6.
The chair is against the wall.
3, 6,
the chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache.
8, 2, 5.
John has a long mustache.
8, 7, 2, 5, 0, 9.
It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.